Remember the days when kids played with toys that were fun, exciting, and, well, downright dangerous? Yeah, the 60s, 70s, and 80s were full of toys that would never make it past today's strict safety regulations. From exploding miniature engines to dart guns that could cause real injuries, here's a list of 10 banned vintage toys, in no particular order, that were dangerously deadly. Number 1. Fuzzy Wuzzy Bear Soap. At first glance, Fuzzy Wuzzy Bear Soap seemed like a delightful bath time companion. Introduced in the mid-20th century, this unique soap came in the shape of a teddy bear and had an unusual trick because it could grow fuzzy hair when wet. Kids loved watching the soft fuzz form, making bath time more fun. But there was a catch. The chemicals used to create this fur were later found to be toxic. Over time, concerns arose that prolonged exposure to the soap could cause skin irritation and other health risks. Although there were no major recorded incidents, safety regulations eventually caught up with this odd invention, leading to its quiet disappearance from store shelves. It was one of those toys that seemed innocent at first, but turned out to be something parents wouldn't want near their kids. And speaking of toys that seemed fun but had hidden dangers, let's talk about another toy that could cause serious damage in the wrong hands. Whammo, known for fun but risky toys like the slip and slide and lawn darts, introduced the air blaster in the 1960s. Unlike traditional toy guns, this one didn't fire foam darts or plastic pellets. Instead, it shot concentrated blasts of air at high speed, strong enough to snuff out a candle from several feet away. While this might sound harmless, the powerful bursts of air could cause unexpected injuries. Kids quickly discovered that aiming it at someone's ear could lead to temporary or even permanent hearing damage. There were also concerns that shooting air at close range into someone's eyes could cause irritation or even more serious harm. Due to these risks, the Whammo Air Blaster was discontinued. But if you thought that was the most extreme toy weapon of its time, just wait until you hear about a toy gun that turned every kid into a walking arsenal. If there was ever a toy that made kids feel like a full-fledged action hero, it was the Johnny 7 OMA. Released in 1964 by Topper Toys, this was no ordinary toy gun. It was a 7-in-1 battlefield weapon that could fire bullets, grenades, and even a rocket. It came with multiple detachable components, allowing kids to switch between a machine gun, grenade launcher, anti-tank weapon, and more. For children in the 1960s, this was the ultimate dream toy. It was heavily marketed as the one-man army and was the best-selling toy gun of 1964. However, despite its popularity, it had serious safety concerns. The various projectiles, including spring-loaded grenades and hard plastic bullets, pose choking hazards and could cause injuries if fired at close range. There were also reports of kids getting hurt by the powerful mechanisms that could snap shut unexpectedly. As toy safety regulations became stricter, Johnny 7 OMA was eventually discontinued. In today's world of foam dart guns and laser tag, it's hard to imagine a toy this extreme being sold. But when it comes to dangerous vintage toys, nothing is riskier than one that literally uses heat and steam to function. Imagine a toy that required actual fire and boiling water to work. That's exactly what miniature steam engines were. Popular in the early to mid-20th century, these mechanical marvels were small, functioning, steam-powered machines designed to mimic real locomotives and engines. Kids would pour water into a tiny boiler, heat it up using a flame or burning fuel, and watch as steam powered the pistons and wheels. While undeniably fascinating, these toys were also ticking time bombs. The combination of open flames, hot metal parts, and pressurized steam meant that burns were extremely common. If the boiler was overheated or improperly sealed, it could even explode, leading to serious injuries. By the late 20th century, safety regulations deemed these toys too dangerous, leading to their decline. While modern versions exist with built-in safety measures, the original models are now seen more as collector's items rather than something you'd hand to a child. But even without fire or explosives, this next toy was just as dangerous in its simplicity and could turn an ordinary playtime into a potential hospital visit. Before the soft foam darts of Nerf blasters, kids had something much more dangerous: dart guns with actual metal-tipped darts. These toys were popular in the 1950s and 1960s, marketed as exciting target practice games for kids. The guns would fire small metal darts at high speed, designed to stick into dartboards or other surfaces. The problem? Kids didn't always aim at safe targets. It wasn't uncommon for children to accidentally, or sometimes intentionally, shoot at each other, leading to serious injuries. These metal darts could puncture skin, damage eyes, or even cause life-threatening wounds if fired at close range. Reports of children being blinded or suffering deep facial injuries eventually led to strict regulations on projectile toys. By the 1970s, manufacturers switched to plastic or suction cup darts, making the toys much safer. However, for those who grew up with the original metal dart guns, the risk factor was part of the thrill. However, while dart guns were dangerous because of their sharp projectiles, another toy was risky simply because it was difficult to control. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, kids were obsessed with pogo ball, a bizarre mix of a pogo stick and a bouncing ball. It featured a rubber ball sandwiched between a circular plastic platform, and the goal was to stand on the platform and bounce around using nothing but balance and momentum. While it looked like harmless fun, pogo ball had a high injury rate. Kids would often lose control mid-bounce, sending them crashing onto pavement. The common injuries included twisted ankles, sprained wrists, and even concussions from falls. Some kids also slipped off mid-air, causing them to land awkwardly and break bones. Despite these dangers, the toy remained popular for a while. It was eventually discontinued, but similar versions have resurfaced in recent years with better safety features and improved grip designs. But if you thought kids falling off a bouncing ball was bad, imagine a toy that could fly straight into your face at high speed. Before modern remote-controlled drones and helicopters, kids in the 1970s had the vertibird helicopter, a motorized toy chopper that flew in circles while tethered to a central base. The concept was simple. Using a small joystick, kids could control the helicopter's speed and altitude, making it take off, land, and perform cool maneuvers. At first glance, Vertibird seemed like an exciting and harmless toy, but there was a problem. It had no safety mechanisms. The spinning plastic blades were fast and could easily smack kids in the face, tangle in the hair, or even cause eye injuries. Some children lost control of the helicopter, sending it crashing into furniture, pets, and even their own siblings. The small parts and fragile plastic also made Vertibird prone to breaking, which meant sharp edges could cut kids if they weren't careful. By the late 1980s, battery-operated RC helicopters became more advanced, and Vertibird quietly disappeared. Our next toy was one that brought fun, speed, and a whole lot of injuries. Long before battery-powered ride-on cars became a thing, dune buggy pedal cars were a must-have for adventurous kids in the 1970s. These were miniature, human-powered buggies that let kids race around their neighborhoods by pedaling as fast as their legs could move. The problem? They had no brakes. Unlike traditional bicycles, these pedal-powered dune buggies relied entirely on kids' ability to stop with their feet, which often ended in disaster. If a child was speeding down a hill, there was no way to stop besides crashing into something or skidding out of control. Many kids ended up with bruises, scrapes, or even broken bones from flipping over or crashing into curbs, fences, or parked cars. Some dune buggies also had poorly designed metal frames, which could bend or break during sharp turns, sending kids tumbling onto the pavement. Eventually, battery-operated ride-on cars replaced pedal buggies, making them a thing of the past. And while modern versions still exist, they come with better safety features like brakes and speed limiters. Now, if you thought flipping a dune buggy was dangerous, imagine playing with a toy that could shrink when heated, something in dangerously unpredictable ways. At first glance, Shrinky-Dinks seemed like a harmless and fun craft toy. Kids could draw designs on special plastic sheets, cut them out, and watch them shrink into hardened charms when baked in the oven. They were introduced in the 1970s and they became a huge hit, especially for making DIY keychains, jewelry, and decorations. But here's the catch. Early versions of Shrinky-Dinks used plastic sheets that, when heated, release toxic fumes. Back then, manufacturers didn't always regulate what kind of plastic was used in toys. Some of these early Shrinky-Dinks contained polyvinyl chloride, which, when exposed to high heat, could release harmful chemicals into the air. If kids or parents accidentally inhaled these fumes while baking their creations, it could lead to breathing problems, dizziness, and other health concerns. To make things worse, some children would touch the hot plastic too soon, leading to burns and painful blisters. And since kids often experimented with different heat sources, some even tried candles or lighters instead of ovens, the risk of accidental fires became a concern. As awareness about plastic safety and toxic fumes grew, newer versions of Shrinky-Dinks were redesigned with safer materials. However, the original sets were eventually pulled from the market, making way for the safer craft kits we have today. If you think this wasn't risky enough, let's look at the final toy on our list, which quite literally had kids playing with fire. Back in the 1950s and 1960s, aviation-themed toys were all the rage, and one of the most thrilling was the Whirly-Bird helicopter toy. Unlike the battery-powered Vertibird, this high-speed helicopter operated on a pull-string mechanism. Kids would wind up the string, release it, and watch the toy take off with surprising speed. But there was one big problem. Some versions of Whirly-Bird used actual flammable fuel to power their flights. In a bizarre and reckless attempt to make the helicopter feel more realistic, manufacturers created fuel-powered versions that ran on flammable alcohol-based liquid. Kids would pour the fuel into a small chamber, ignite it, and launch the helicopter, sending it flying across the room. As you can imagine, this led to plenty of accidents. Some kids burned their hands while lighting the toy, while others accidentally set carpets, furniture, or even their own clothes on fire. The helicopters weren't easy to control, meaning they could crash and spill burning fuel on anything nearby. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, safety regulations had cracked down on fuel-based toys, and the Whirly-Bird was quickly discontinued. However, electric and battery-powered helicopter toys soon took its place, offering a much safer alternative. And there you have it, 10 of the most dangerous vintage toys that served as a reminder of a time when safety standards were not as strict as they are today. Which of these toys do you remember playing with, or wished brands should bring back? Let us know in the comments below. And if this trip down memory lane brought back some feelings, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button for more nostalgic contents like this one. See you in the next video.